From here, we'll head to a warrior 2. So where warrior 1 was about like this, still facing forward, the slight change to warrior 2 will be to begin from our mountain pose and take a nice big step. Might be forward and back as we find a kind of runner's lunge on the way. And from here, pivoting on the toes of the back foot, we'll bring that heel all the way towards center. So notice that this back foot is now slicing in a perpendicular direction to the front one. So the back one is in alignment with the short edge of the mat, and the front foot is in alignment with the long edges of the mat. And from here, once again, I invite you to notice, are you standing on a balance beam, which is perfectly wonderful and a strong pose for your warrior 2 as we get there. You have the option of making space by choosing to stand on railroad tracks, just increasing your surface area for extra stability, especially if this pose is new to your body. As you feel stable, you might begin to notice the work, the warmth of this strong lunging leg as your hip abductors are working to externally rotate this knee towards the left side of your hip. And we have now opened the back hip towards the long edge of the mat. All right, that's a lot of information to process. I welcome you to return to your breath. Maybe choose to float your arms to shoulder height, making a kind of T. So your hands might float towards the short edges in front and back of your mat, floating over your feet. So in warrior 2, the head can swivel to look over one set of fingertips or back over the others. From here, option to flip the front palm, the one over your lunging knee, and let it rise like the sun overhead as the other hand droops over the long leg behind you. We call this reversed warrior. Take a deep breath here. Nice work. We'll return to warrior 2. From here, we'll bend the front elbow and bring it towards the lunging knee, finding that connection for support, maybe then allowing the back hand to reach up high overhead for side angle. You have the option to continue reaching with this lifted hand, maybe bringing the fingertips to float even over your head and front foot, making a long angle from grounded toes behind you to lifted hand overhead. Nice. Now we'll use that hand like it's reaching for support behind as we return to warrior 2, lifting the upper body. We'll lengthen that lunging leg, maybe with a big sigh of relief. Yeah, enjoy a nice breath there. Now, using this newly lengthened leg like a kickstand, we're going to keep it long and strong. We're going to reach over that front horizon. And then we'll tip the teapot, letting the shoulders toggle to a T. Maybe your hand connects the back of your hand with the inside of your shin as you look overhead. Another option could be to bring a block or a stack of books. It can be nice to just bring the floor to meet so that we're not standing in space, kind of wavering around. So make this yours. This is triangle pose. And we'll move through this a couple times. So standing back up, returning the arms to a T, we'll lunge the front knee, pressing into both feet equally. Can you shrug your shoulders here with a big breath in? And float them away from your ears. A big breath out. Choose to flip the front palm over your lunging knee and let it rise like the sun, reversing your warrior. Big breath here. Choose to stay, maybe bending the top elbow. So let your hand cradle the back of your head as you continue to lift with your elbow, noticing the length of your rib cage from hip to armpit and beyond. Nice. As you're ready, unwind and refind your way to warrior 2. Choose to bend that front elbow to connect with your lunging knee as the back hand reaches like a long windmill arm to toggle overhead for side angle. Can you draw that shoulder away from your ear as you get there? Nice. Bring your breath a long, deep breath in. Reach back. Lift both arms to shoulder height. Sigh of relief as you lengthen that lunging knee one more time. Reach your hand over towards that horizon. Let it hang above that kickstand of your long supportive leg. And then tip your teapot, letting your shoulders toggle. Maybe your hand finds connection with your shin or a block. Can you stay here and breathe? Imagine standing between two panes of glass. And you're in this very kind of skinny space in between these panes of glass, if that makes sense. Just something to think about. There's no right or wrong. As you're ready, reach back, press into both feet, maybe bend that front knee one more time. Allow your hands to float, finding ease, lengthening both legs. And from here, we're just going to lift the toes of the front foot and turn them towards the same long edge of the mat that the other toes are pointed towards. We're going to do the opposite on the other foot. We'll lift those toes and send them towards the short edge on the back of the mat. And it might be nice to shorten your stance or widen it depending on what feels right for your body today. And choose to lunge with now the back knee, reaching towards the other edge of your mat. And the long pinky edge of your other foot can grip the mat in alignment with the short edge on the other end of the mat. A breath in might lift your arms to shoulder height if you choose, maybe looking over left fingertips and over right. Remembering there's wisdom in facing challenges ahead with precision while still drawing on the wisdom of the past. Do with that what you will, maybe looking over the same fingertips as your lunging knee. Choose to flip that palm towards the sky and toggle your shoulders as you reach up towards the sun, reversing your warrior. Option to return to warrior two, maybe bending the elbow this time to connect with the top of the lunging thigh as the other arm rises like the hand on a clock and reaches up overhead for side angle. Nice work. We'll reach back, returning to warrior two with the upper body. And now lengthening the lunging knee. Using it like a strong kickstand, we'll reach over that long leg before toggling the shoulders to connect the hand with the shin on the inside. Just kind of a point of connection to kind of help spin your heart towards the sky, if that makes sense. A reminder, you can place a block or anything you like, maybe a stack of books for support. Whatever's handy. You don't have to put much weight on it at all. Sometimes it's nice just to have something to connect with. Nice. So from your triangle pose, we'll return the shoulders to level with the ground and choose to lunge that knee one more time, finding warrior two on this side again. Flipping the palm, reversing the warrior, option to bend the elbow and cradle the back of your head as you lift. Allow your breath to expand your rib cage from the inside out on that inhale. Return to your warrior two, reaching long in both directions with both hands, still lunging strong in that knee. You know it's working hard. We'll bend the elbow and connect with the thigh one more time for side angle, bringing the hand to reach in a long line from the pinky edge of the foot down below, all the way to the lifted pinky fingertip up ahead. And returning to warrior two, we'll lengthen that front knee one more time, reaching over that foot, that long kickstand of a leg before toggling for side angle and finding support where it may be, on the floor, on a prop, or on yourself. And find your way back to upright. You might choose to heel toe your feet towards center a bit. And from here, I'll invite you to turn your toes outwards. We'll bring the heels in and the toes out towards the outside corners of the mat. And from here, we'll bend the knees in the same direction as the toes for kind of a wide-legged squat, also known as goddess pose. I invite you to bring your breath, come up for a big wide star, reaching out in all directions. And exhale, maybe connecting the palms in center as you lower your hips as though to take a wide seat in a chair. Inhale, rising to shine and star. Exhaling to connect in center with strength and hip abduction. Nice work. I invite you to make your way to standing. We'll maybe meet in mountain pose, bringing the feet together, the toes to point down the mat towards the short edge on the other end. Maybe rising tall with a big breath in from toes to nose. Choose to turn your thumbs outward. From here, you might like to bring your hands to your hips as we prepare for a bit of a standing balance. It also might be nice to step to maybe the center or so of your mat so that you know there's some clear way behind and in front. And from here, we'll practice Warrior 3, which is instead of 1 foot, no, what am I trying to say? Instead of 2 feet, it's 1 foot. So first we practice Warrior 1, facing the challenges in one direction down the mat. Then we opened up to Warrior 2, so we could look forward and back. And now we'll shift to Warrior 3 by starting from a standing stance and hinging at the hips, maybe shifting weight into one footprint, growing strong and long through the standing leg like a tall tree trunk. Maybe the other foot hovers and the knee bends. From here, I like to imagine stamping my foot on the wall behind me as I extend my lifted leg. And think about having your hips level. It's very tempting to lift the lifted leg higher than the standing one. But here in Warrior 3, our heart still faces forward. So you might look back and look at your toes. Can you flex them and point them towards the floor? Let the lift come from the activation of your glute muscles and the length of your leg, reaching behind more than any lift in your hip, if that makes sense. Come out the way you came in, with or without grace. That's all why we practice. Might feel nice to shake it out before switching sides. And the same thing. We'll just switch feet. I guess I'll face the same direction so you can just see it on the other side now. We'll settle the weight into the opposite foot, letting one foot hover now. And as we hinge at the hips, letting the heart hover maybe in line with the hips. This lifted foot can start to counterbalance that hinging at the hip, and maybe a bend in the knee allows a sensation of stamping the foot straight back on the wall behind you. And once again, can you notice the level of your hips? It could feel nice to place a finger or handprint on a wall or bar for support nearby. So think about lengthening your spine, lengthening your lifted leg, pointing your toes towards the floor, and finding your breath in the center of it all. Return to standing as you feel ready. And before we make our way to the floor, I'll invite you to join me for a wide-legged fold. Again, it could be nice to stand in front of a wall just for a sense of security that there's no one behind you, no one to sneak up on you, and also to just know that there is a place to lean for support as needed. So we'll do the opposite as we did for goddess pose, this time turning the toes more in and allowing the heels to turn more out, kind of pigeon-toed. And as before, you might choose to place your hands on your hips. Think about sending your tail back, almost like we did in downward facing dog. Think about lifting your hips. And maybe your heart begins to grow heavy towards the floor. If the floor feels far away, remember your props. They are not a sign of weakness, they are a sign of strength, sign of knowing how to support yourself, and of working smarter, not harder. So bring the floor to you. Another option could be to increase the space left and right between your footprints. This will bring your hips and your heart closer to the floor if that's where you want to be. You have the option to support yourself in a half fold with this wide-legged stance. And just notice the length of the inseams and the outsides of both legs. If using blocks, after a few breaths, you might choose to lower their height. If using books, you might choose to remove a few from the stack. And you continue to lift your tail towards the sky and allow your heart to melt towards the floor. Maybe at some point you don't need anything between you and the earth. Maybe your handprints reach there, or even your elbows. You might choose to let your head hang as you enjoy a few long breaths here. Can you notice the slowing of your heart rate? The soft pressure behind your face as you hang upside down. Maybe even notice any sense of playfulness. Can you remember the last time you were upside down? And whenever you feel complete with your forward fold, your wide-legged forward fold, I invite you to make your way with ease down to the mat. You have the option of continuing your fold once on the mat. So I'll meet you there, using all the points of connection you have for support. So you bring one knee down and then a hip, and then arrange from there. It could feel nice to make space between your feet, bringing the knees wide, thinking tall thoughts, maybe placing your handprints like kickstands in front of your chest, letting your arms be long, creating gentle support as you softly allow your weight to shift forward. Notice the connection of your heels and the backs of your legs on the earth as you flex your toes towards your face and the sky. There's no right or wrong. You don't have to move any amount, or you might be able to move much more than I demonstrate.